Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the ITSS Verona YouTube channel. I am Rebecca from the Africa team, and today we will talk about the situation in the Sahel and in the North Africa from the point of view of a researcher who works in the field. For this episode, we are delighted to host Michele Tallarini from the University of Bergamo, who is currently working on different projects related to the prevention of radicalization, women's empowerment, and active citizenship in Burkina Faso and Niger. He is also involved in several activities aimed at the integration of refugees in Algeria and Europe. I would like to start by expressing our gratitude to our guests for accepting our invitation and for sharing his knowledge and experience with us. So thank you very much, Michele, to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
And first of all, to enable our listeners to better demarcate the topic, I would like to ask you if you could you please give us a short overview of the geopolitical situation in the Sahel. And in particular, we would like to explore the situation related to terrorism and extremism in the area.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Of course, the Sahel is nowadays one of the most insecure areas of the world. The reason for this instability, for this great instability, are to be searched in the geopolitical situation of the region, which is affected by several endogenous and, of course, exogenous phenomena that undermine its security. First of all, in my opinion, there's the climate change, which stresses an area, a region of the world that is already one of the most extreme in not only in Africa, but in all the world. Linked to this, there are migration, there are the issue of the migration and interethnic conflict, because the impact of the desertification and of the drought on the local population is often underestimated, but it actually represents, as we will see, one of the biggest threats for people's security, and so do not allow people to live better, to have a well-being in these areas. At the more wide geopolitical level, the most relevant event for the region was the fall of the Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, who, when he ruled Libya, represented a sort of stabilizing factor for the entire Sahel region. And so after his capture and his murder by the Western countries, by the French, by the France and America, and the outbreak successively of the civil war in Libya, several Tuareg soldiers of the Gaddafi army returned to their lands at the border, for example, for instance, with Mali and Niger. And so it was a great factor of instability. Moreover, a big part of the huge arsenal of the Libyan army disappeared during the civil war and reappeared and went to feed the black market in the Sahel, so Burkina, Niger, and Mali, contributing, of course, at the destabilization of the region, because we know that more weapons there are in a region, the more this region, this area is unstable. And so the more there's the possibility to that conflict occurs. And so after the fall of Gaddafi, there was a military coup in Mali in 2012, and the rise of the national movement for the liberation of the Azawad. Azawad was a region located in the northern central Mali, which collapsed and after the war, after the civil war, after the coup, and gave the possibility to several Islamic terrorist groups like Ansar Din, for instance, or like Hakim, to take control of the area, of the region. And so one time more, another factor of destabilization in the region. Nowadays, after 10 years, the conflict is still active, and it has expanded to all the region located in the area, including, for instance, the more important are Niger and Burkina Faso. Of course, there was and there is an intervention of the international community, because the United Nations and Europe and America tried to solve the situation, for instance, with the French Operation Takuba and Barkhane, but without a great success. At the moment, the terrorist groups are active mostly in a precise area, which is called the Three Borders region, which is located between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, where these groups have the chance, the possibility to control all the smuggling routes where human beings, weapons, and drugs are traded and arrive in Europe and in the rest of the world. This is so important because, as we will see, using these routes and so controlling these routes, the groups have the chance to fund their activities, because smuggling is one of the most the main way to fund and to finance the activity of the groups. And one time more, this is possible because of the instability of the region, and of course of the absence of borders, because there's no real borders in the Sahel near the states. The borders are not controlled or not well controlled, and so the groups have the possibility, as the chance to rule the territory and to control all the traffic, and of course human traffic, that is a big issue of the region, and also for us as European. For what concerns the international forces, France this year announced the partial withdrawal of its troops, and this demonstrates a sort of ineffectiveness of the conventional war strategy against these small groups who knew very well the territory, the area, and so they have the chance to operate and can organize as they do, fast and effective attacks on the population in order to keep control of the ground. So it is very difficult for European soldiers, but also for local soldiers, for local armies, to control and fight these kinds of attacks, these kinds of organizations. At the moment, the situation is still unstable, because the frequency and the scale of the attacks, of the terrorist attacks, is growing, is increasing, and the local governments seems to be unable to solve the situation. In particular, and they are also very, very unstable, because in particular Mali and Burkina had several military coups. In Burkina, for instance, there was 2 push this year, and this prove how these states has not the resource and also the stability to control and contain the risk represented by this group, by this terrorist group. And so I think that is vital for us, for you as European, as Western citizens, as Western countries, to deeply understand the situation that actually are in the Sahel, because of its strategic importance. So it is very, very important to know it and to try to understand what the Sahel is, at what's happening in the Sahel.
Okay, thank you, Michele, for this complete illustration of the situation in the Sahel. I would like to ask you, which are for you the main reasons that lead local people to radicalization? And in your experience, which are the main peculiarities that affect radicalization in the area?
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Okay, I have to start with saying that radicalization is a very, very complex phenomenon and a process. And it is important also to say that there are some common patterns, we can call it, that lead people to religious or to violent radicalization. But at the same time, every region and every context in the world, in different parts of the world, has its peculiarity. For instance, radical Islam in the Middle East, it's very different. It's quite different compared to Western Africa or to other parts of the world. At the same time, the reason that lead, for instance, Malian young men to join a terrorist group are quite far from those of Syrian, for example. And so we have to to underline that there is a common pattern, but also some regional, as we will see, some regional differences. In the case of the Sahel, as we saw, the main goal of the terrorist group is the control of the territory, the control of the ground. So the chance to control the traffic that pass through the Sahara Desert and to finance that serve to finance their activities. In that sense, the issue of religion, so the religion could be seen as a sort of pretext to gain the dominion of the region. So there are different reasons that lead people to radicalization in the Sahel. One is for sure their economic situation, which is very, very difficult in the region, as we saw also for the climate change and for the poverty of the region. In fact, joining a group can guarantee a certain level of financial security, thanks to the linkages with the groups and their richness. But by the way, it must be underlined that more than the economical reasons in the Sahel is the social background and the need of a sort of social redemption that push people to join a terrorist group. Because, for instance, the Sahel is characterized by a great number of educated young boys and young girls. So is one of the younger region in the world. So people that in the main case had the chance to study, to have a primal schooling, but they don't have any possibility, any chance to work and to improve their social and economic conditions. So they have to leave the country and, for instance, reach Europe, or they have to stay in their poor economic condition. And so there's a lot of need of social redemption, economic redemption also, but linked also to a sort of they don't trust their government. They don't trust that the government can give them the chance to their well-being, and so also their economic well-being. And so there's this there's the possibility that for this social redemption they join this terrorist group. At the same time, and moreover, the ethnical conflict, for instance, between nomad and sedentary communities tends to exacerbate the tension and to, of course, create huge differences between nomadic shepherds, for instance, and the farmers' communities, who are actually in competition for resources like water and for the use of the fields for cultivation or for feeding the animals. And as already said, the climate change has a big role in this, because the more the desertification advances, the less ground is in disposition of this population in order to live and feed themselves and their animals, or cultivate all the crops. And so this led to a great, to big interethnic conflicts that are exploited by the terrorist group in order to give power. And another, as I said, another big dynamic that led to radicalization is, as we see, the lack of the trust in local government. And so there's a lot of there's no trust in the state, and so people think that states are not able to solve their problem and guarantee their security. And so it's another very important issue and very important dynamic that can lead to radicalization. And as I hope I give you this overview to understand that there's a lot of different dynamics that work together and can be perceived or be considered as push-up factors that lead a young man or a young woman to a radicalization path, and so to join a terrorist group.
Yes, surely you gave like the complexity of the situation and of the reality in this area. And I would like to ask you if, in your opinion, are there some concrete strategies to help these local communities to be more resilient to the issue? And if yes, could you please share with us your experience in the field as you got this precious experience on the field? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the issue of the radicalization is complex and we can say multifaceted. And so it needs different approaches, which include security, and so of course also the military part, we can say, but also economic support at the population, of course social support, and of course training and education. So not only the security, but also the support to the population, because as we saw, poverty and social disease, economic disease are the main push-up factor that leads people to radicalization. And so it is not possible to solve the problem only with, for instance, military operation, if we at the same time don't tell communities to cooperate together, or if we don't guarantee young people or people in general a better future. And so we need, the situation needs this, we can call it holistic approach to the problem. And for what concerns my job, in that regard, the ONGs who work in the Sahel, that are several, developed a lot of cooperation projects designed to enhance the resilience, to improve the resilience of the communities, of the populations, and to improve the awareness of the citizens, and in particular of the young citizens, regarding radicalization, terrorism, but also democracy and active citizenship. Citizenship. We are talking about project which covered the domains of food and health security, interreligious dialogue, community support, as we saw, training and education. In particular, education, from my point of view, it's very, very important also because it's addressed to young people and so to the future of the community. And that's because, as we see, it's vital to help young people well-being, and so to stay to live better in the region, in the country they live, in order to prevent their radicalization. And as a researcher at the university, I have the chance to work in different projects designed and implemented by an Italian NGO, which is called Progetto Mondo, which is located in Verona, but which work all around the world, and in my case, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. They are projects aimed at the prevention of the violent radicalization, the promotion of the active citizenship, and of course, women's empowerment, which is another big issue of the region. As a researcher, I specifically work on educational programs directly addressed to children and young people that were implemented in schools in particular, but also in youth centers and in organization which works with homeless children, so children who live on the road. The main purpose of these programs is to improve critical thinking, which is very, very important, trust in others and in the government, team building, so the chance to know how to work together without avoiding conflicts. And of course, also the awareness of the role of the citizen in a democracy. And to do this, we made use of several practical exercises. So, educational programs composed by practical exercises, not only theoretical but practical, because we worked with children, with young people, also with unschooled people, and so we need a very, very practical instrument. And we need also exercises which help the participants to directly experiment with the dynamics that lead to the social competencies acquisition, in order to make them capable to apply these competencies in their everyday life. This is so important because through the social competencies acquisition, so making people aware of their power, of the power of the democracy, of the power of knowledge, of the social and critical thinking, we have the chance to fight against the radicalization. As we saw, it's not the only way. It's not enough because we are talking about a very big problem, a very multifaceted problem. But education is, of course, one way. And to do this, for instance, we made, in order to underline the very, very practical character of the methodology, we use simulation of, for instance, the process of the democratic vote. So we simulate the vote, and so the democratic and active choose of a leader. Also encore the team working, so practical exercise and practical simulation about the team working, so they work together. And of course, practical examples, practical exercises, practical activities about the dialogue with people with different opinions, in order to give participants the chance to understand that there are different opinions, but that we need to understand each other and to debate, not only with the force, but with the dialogue. And so this is very, very important, as we gave them the chance to reflect in a very, very concrete way on these topics. And moreover, at operative level, we can call it, we saw that the main strategy to propose educational programs or in general educational training intervention and activities which are really effective is the continuous collaboration, the continuous cooperation with local authorities, like, for instance, the Minister of Education. We worked with the Minister of Education, with the Minister of Youth, in order to have the endorsement of the authority, but also to have their advice in order to ameliorate the program and make it the programs we made really concrete and adapt to the local context, to the local situation. And which is so important to know, thanks to the minister and also the professional we work with, the concrete context in which we operate, which is and are so different to our European reality, European context. And so, to conclude my answer, it is also important to cooperate, but also to train local trainers, and not only to guarantee the sustainability of the project. Because if me, for instance, as a researcher, as a trainer, I perform directly the activity on the ground, so the activity in school, I don't do the competencies transfer, competency training transfer to a local team. And so the project is not sustainable. But as we did, if we train directly a group of trainers on the ground, we have the chance to make the project sustainable, but also to have a continuous exchange of opinions with this trainer, with this professional, which allows us to continuously adapt our content, our educational training content, to the changing context. So the cooperation with local, not only authorities, but also local professional, local people, it is very important, and at operative level can be a winning strategy.
Thank you very much, Michele. Actually, I would like to make a last question because we have a couple of minutes. So talking about the interventions that you have taken part in the area, what is the feedback of the communities? I mean, did you ever encounter hostility and resistance? And if yes, could you please share with us some examples?
Of course, by my side, we had a very positive feedback from the communities during our projects. We have cooperated with them at every level, at each level, such as we saw authority level, trainers level, and participant level. And this gave us the possibility to gather their opinions and evaluation for the activities, in order, of course, to improve our interventions and our programs, and of course work with them as equals. In fact, the main risk in this kind of projects, in this kind of activities, is to be perceived as far from local context, and so to be seen with some hostility, I can call it, or skepticism, because you know, you are the European person who arrives and tell local people how to do something.
Yes.
This is the worst approach, because you don't have the trust of the communities. And so to avoid that, we gave local professionals the chance to add their personal experience, their work and job experience to our program, in order to improve it and adapt some activities to local necessities. Also, this was so important because it was important for us to know the local context in order to design intervention which was effective. Because we arrive from an European context which is very, very different from the local context. Also in a practical way, but because schools are very different, also in a structural buildings, for instance, are very different. And so we needed to know the local context, and the support of the local communities and of the local professionals was very, very important in order to adapt and improve the intervention. For what concern the hostility, we don't had any hostility in 3 years of work. At least at my level. So I don't live in Sahel, so I don't know if there's something that didn't work or that don't actually works. But in my experience, I never experienced some opposition. I experienced some sort of opposition or some issues when we talked about religion, when we touch religion issue in our program. And so the challenge was to talk about violent radicalization without talking about religion. And so we decided to focus on the social competencies acquisition, so not to talk directly about religion. But I think that it's not a real problem, because it's only an approach that the context, this particular context needs. And so in general, I never experienced some hostility or some other problems.
Okay, thank you very much, Michele. I finished the questions, and thank you very much for this really interesting contribute and for sharing your precious experience with us. I think, and I bet that our listeners really appreciated the episode, because it was really, really a precious panoramic on the reality in the Sahel. And I would like to remind them to put a like under the video and to continue to follow ITSS Verona activities for other many new contents. And really, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.